It's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's not a jail sentence. Will I make a dime? No. Does it apply to anything I talk about and how to score in Hollywood? No. Late 70s, something happened. Something called Star Wars and Jaws.
Today, folks, we are with a Hollywood icon. He's actually a real Hollywood legend. His name is Kevin Goetz. And Kevin is a guy who has been ahead of the curve, seriously, his entire life. He's written a couple of books, which we'll talk about. But most importantly, he has been on the curve, the analytics curve, way before anyone even could spell analytics. Tell us what you're doing at the moment.
Absolutely. So I am Kevin Goetz, and I am the founder and CEO of Screen Engine. It is a data analytics firm, principally working in movies and television. And so we do everything from soup to nuts, from the twinkle of an idea and testing that. So at the earliest stages of concept and idea, all the way through production, once a movie or a television show is made, and then the advertising of that, and then finally, after it goes on, debuts, hits a theater, what happens beyond that?
So you started off at Nielsen, which was a rating company for TV shows.
Well, I actually started off not at Nielsen, but at NRG,
Okay.
who was purchased by Nielsen, and now they spun off again a dozen years ago, and that was a great learning ground because NRG was really just a movie research company. And when I started Screen Engine, I had a stint in there for 7 years at a company called OTX where we did online surveys. Remember, they used to be done in the malls, surveys, polling, and in, you get phone calls, random digit dialing, they called it, and the internet changed everything. So I had to sort of, along with the folks I worked with, tell our clients, look, you can reach people now online. Well, they're weirdos, the people that are online. I said, well, they're as weird as anyone that goes to a mall or that picks up their phone to take a survey. We had to convince people not only to use us as a company, but to also change their methodology. So that was tough. But when I finally started Screen Engine, it was important that I was equal measure in movies and in television because, especially the younger generations, they don't look at the way we had a relationship with movies in a movie theater, right? They're much more, how do I say it? They're much more part of this ecosystem that is, I just want to watch that, or I want to watch that, not I want to go to the movies. You follow? So that really has changed, and I wanted to be at the forefront of that.
It's funny when you were talking a minute ago. I remember being in line at movie theaters and people coming by with the clipboard.
You bet.
And when I was researching everything, one of the things that I've always been curious about is how do you pick people for your target audiences to see how the concept is going to play out and what this movie could actually earn.
We don't do it in a vacuum. We do it in tandem with the studio.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking about a pre-released movie, we recruit maybe 300 people to your local theater. It's all predetermined. We go there because it's let's say it's ethnically diverse, and we want to get a better snapshot of America than just going, say, to an all sort of white audience or an all black audience or an all Hispanic audience. We try to get a diversity in this particular case, let's say, in your example. And then we come up with a specification letter that lays out, we want to get 50% of the audience male and 50% of the audience female. We want to get 25% 18 to 24-year-olds, 25% 25 to 35 4-year-olds, 25% 35 to 49-year-olds, and 25% 50 plus. And we balance it accordingly. So we don't only recruit 300 people.
Mm-hmm.
We recruit, say, 900 people. And of that, maybe 500 will show up. Of that, we'll select and turn away 200 of those people who do not fit in categories once they're filled. It's a research
Yep.
method. It's not meant to piss anyone off. We try very hard to accommodate people who are turned away, to put them into other movies at the theater that are playing there, to invite them back, et cetera, because they've made a big effort to come out.
I've always been huge on data analytics. I'm an accountant by trade and everything, and I
Interesting.
love that they always tell you a story. How do you then have to convince these muckety mucks at the studios that you need to do this or this is what's going to happen?
Well, I don't have to do that much convincing. I mean, this has been going on now for years. I
Mm.
mean, first of all, the idea of screenings was done back in the days of Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton and Harold Lloyd. They would take their comedic sequences up, say, to Hollywood Boulevard, and they would speak to a theater manager and say, "Look, Mr. Chaplin would like to show 20 minutes after your screening tonight of your movie. Would you let him?" "Oh, of course." And they would announce, "Everyone stay in your seats. We have a special surprise we're going to show." But they didn't announce. Chaplin would say, go in the back of the theater and
Yep.
listen. He would just listen to the response. And if something fell flat, he knew what to do. In the 30s, then it started to become, questionnaires started to come into play, and they would have postcards, and people would actually mail them back. Imagine that. They would actually fill them out, and they would be very simple questionnaires. What did you think of the overall movie? It was excellent. It was very good. It was good. It was not good. It was bad, or something. Today, we still ask excellent, very good, good, fair, and poor on every single survey because we have years and years of data on it. But it's so interesting how it evolved. So in the late 70s, something happened, something called Star Wars and Jaws.
Yep.
Those movies really paved the way for what we now know as the big tentpole movie. Before that, you had big movies, but you didn't have a movie that was going to be released on the same day in 600, 800 theaters around the United States. And advertising became mass advertising using television. And that changed the whole paradigm. The stakes got higher. It cost a lot of money to advertise. And so a lot of the testing became much more rigorous.
Mhm.
A lot of the testing became much more rigorous, and it became more codified. And so we were able then to evolve that where we are today, which includes the collection, say, of using digital devices. We hand these out, digital devices. We use AI to probe more deeply into the response. We do focus groups, which we've done for years and years, but we do them where they're instantly transcribed. We create a whole story so that ultimately we give the muckety mucks or the high level executives or the major filmmakers with whom I have the pleasure of working with the best insight. And part of it is not just giving the insight and coming out with a report card, but rather I think the reason that I've been doing this successfully for as long as I have, which is nearly 40 years,
Mm.
is because there's a trust. There's a sense that I'm not a nerd that's coming out and delivering these numbers. I'm an artist in my heart. That's my background. And I was an actor, and I was a very serious one, and I trained at a conservatory at Rutgers, Mason Gross School of the Arts, which is one of the best acting conservatories in the country. And I did that since I was a kid, all the way up until I was nearly in my, 30. And I did that as a hyphenate because I was a focus group moderator while I was trying to make a living as a side hustle. And that turned into my main gig. It's funny. I often think about, God, would I ever write a third book? A third book would probably be called Finding Your your A-N-D. Finding Your And means, hey, you come up as an actor, you came up as an accountant. Peter, I don't know what your first gig was, but what was it?
I've been a producer for 55 years, mostly in the commercial world. So I'm very in touch with the data world in terms of every commercial we did had to be tested and revised and tested and
But my
tested.
point is, was there something you did like as a kid that informed the next stage? The Finding Your And is I was an actor and then a focus group moderator and a producer, then a market research executive. And then I sort of evolved into where I am today, and it's all the perfect path. I often tell parents kids, they're flipped out because their kids are 24 or 26 living back home and they have a job that's not necessarily in their field. And I said, calm down. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's not a jail sentence. Let them pick up on that. It'll inform the next thing to the next thing, building blocks to get where you'll find your passion and your love. The first one was called Audienceology. Audienceology. And Simon & Schuster, who's my publisher, kind of came up with that. There was a time when the LA Times did a piece on me in the calendar section, calling me the doctor of audienceology. It was written by Patrick Goldstein, and he coined that phrase, and it really stuck, that moniker. And Simon & Schuster thought there was a big name in that. I originally wanted to call the book Don't Kill the Messenger. Now, that did become the name of my podcast. I also have a pretty successful podcast. I got to tell you, it's great people. I hope people will tune into that as well, because this week's guest is John Chu, who's the director of Wicked, Wicked and Wicked for Good, and among other things like Crazy Rich Asians and stuff like that. But he's an amazing guest. But I have so many amazing folks. So if you're interested in film at all, that's a great one to check out. But How to Score in Hollywood was the original title. And Simon & Schuster said, I think Audienceology, we could do more with it as a brand, And so it's about the screening process. It's about what you just asked me about, Frank. It's really about my war stories, if you will. And I've worked on over 5,000 titles in my career. And so you got to have some really great stories. Now, I can't often talk out of school, so I got a lot of my great directing friends and producer friends and heads of studios to share those stories. So Audienceology is very fun. How to Score in Hollywood is my second book. That's the one I'm on my tour, finishing up my book tour right now. And that is really about unpacking. Well, let me say it this way. So watching those 5,000 movies, I would very often look at the screen and go, how the hell did they make that movie? For that much money, they're going to lose money. I mean, that movie is just for, let's say, older females over the age of, say, 25 or 30. But they've spent so much money on it because I knew the budget. Someone's losing money. And I wanted to unpack that. I wanted to say, what goes into those decisions when people say yes, getting to a green light? And I thought that was an interesting premise for a book because as I was unpacking it, I discovered that, you know what? This is bad. People can make good decisions if they listen to the audience early on. Because I really believe every movie, if made and marketed for the right price, should actually make money. Every single one. Because one of the things I've learned out of 5,000 movies is that there is an audience, at least, of one for every movie. It could be one, it could be 100, it could be 1,000,000, it could be 10 million. But it's shame on the person financing a project to not unpack that and to analyze what you think the size of that audience is so that you can comp your movie to other movies that are accurate and on point with your movie, not something that's aspirational. And that's where so many mistakes get made. You cannot believe how many mistakes get made because people want to say, my movie has to be shot for $16 million. And they say, isn't that great, Kevin? 16 million? And I go, well, maybe that's 15.5 million too much. Seriously, I don't know. Now, I want to be very clear about something. When we talk about art and the creation of art, I don't advocate for the audience's involvement. That's something, especially as an artist, I'm very sensitive about, which is, look, it's between the creator and the universe, the creator and the gods, call it, right? But the moment you memorialize it with a beat sheet, a treatment, a script, bring the audience in. Find out what they think. Find out their intensity of the interest. Find out if they're going to be advocates of this or evangelists of your idea. And I thought that was very interesting. And it turned out to be very interesting in terms of the findings. The other thing I want to say is people are going, well, I don't care that much about movies. I'm never going to make a movie. If you have any entrepreneurial kind of aspirations or any kind of product at all, you can substitute it for the iPhone 26. You can
Mhm.
substitute it for, Ray-Ban glasses. You can sub it for, any product at all and say, I'm about to launch the next thing. Let me do it responsibly. Let me size my audience. Let me assess so I make good business decisions before a frame of film is shot, before I go into full production in China or wherever you're making your widget.
Is there a formula for making movies today?
No is the answer. There are programmers like certain Hallmark Christmas movies or certain Lifetime, we used to call them Women in Jeopardy movies, that follow a certain formula, and the audience wants those types of movies. They expect those types of movies. Excuse me. In the movies that I've produced, I have made a Hallmark Christmas movie, and I've made nine lifetime Women in Jeopardy movies with a
Mhm.
woman lead who is empowered at some point and has to overcome something. And so there's a real audience for that. So that has a little bit of a formulaic approach. But, there's the commercial arts, which is kind of where that lies. And then there's the art of filmmaking, which is sort of another thing. When people talk about AI, for example, coming into existence and they're going to take all these jobs away, probably they will ultimately be more threatening to the commercial arts, but not to the art of filmmaking, the humanity, the talent involved in all the departments to make a film, meaning the art department, the art direction, the production design, the editors, the all the crafts folks that it takes to make a movie, is an artistic endeavor, and I don't think that will be easily replaceable or replicable. But I do think there is a place for AI when you're talking about sort of this new vertical platform, on phones. That's sort of little.
Mhm.
I think there's a place for it where it will
Mm.
be very economical. We just have to not put our heads in the sand and say it's not happening. It's going to happen, but I think that what you'll see in the next few years is this separation, and it's a great observation, Peter, where you see the commercial arts versus the art of filmmaking. It's happening. It's not only happening, it's going to happen at such a warp speed and is happening at such a warp speed that it will make coming onto the internet child's play when we all came online. Do you know what I mean? That was that
Yeah.
evolution, which seemed so dramatic and has changed our lives so dramatically.
I wanna ask you a question, and I wanna caveat this 'cause, no offense to anyone, but favorite project that you've worked on? Because your career has been amazing. There's
Thank you.
gotta be one that stands out,
Thank
though.
you. Oh my God, one that stands out.
At least
This,
one.
I know, but this is always, I've got to, let me give you a 5 or 10.
Very good. I'll
Okay.
take it.
Well, because this is what's exciting about what I've done over the years. I get to witness a movie. Think about this. At the first time it's being shown. So no critics. Many times, not even the studio is even in on it yet. They've probably seen a private cut in a screening room. But with an audience, I get to experience something that no one else experiences. So, Titanic,
Yep.
unbelievable. That first screening when that water goes and you're like, oh my God, it's so exciting. Borat, believe it or not. Man, I couldn't believe that was so fresh. There's something about Mary. Again, a comedy.
Mhm.
People were just falling out of their chairs. I remember What's Love Got to Do with It, the Tina Turner thing with Angela
Tina
Bassett.
Turner, yeah.
People were just like a wave of when she said, I just want to keep my name, but I'm out of here. And she left. And wow, that was like, whoa, magic. Uh, More recently, Wicked.
Mhm.
When I saw Wicked, I turned to the head of the studio at the end and the director, the producers, and I said, you know what? This is a $1 billion property. They're like, oh my God, from your mouth to God's ears. Because they spent a lot of money
Mm.
on two movies and it could have gone a different way. Barbie, another one. Barbie was a movie. See, I had done early testing on Barbie,
Yep.
and the results we got back were run from it. It's a highly, people were highly aware of Barbie. they didn't want to see a movie
Mm.
about it unless they were maybe a little young girl, principally, and maybe some moms who had nostalgia about the dolls. But there were a lot of the not really well done direct to video movies. So it was like, how are you going to find your way in? What I learned from that was that Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, her partner, and also Robbie Brenner from Mattel, and Enon
Yep.
Kreis, the chairman of Mattel, and Margot Robbie and her husband Tom Ackerley changed the DNA of that movie and created this insanely neat brand expression that went beyond what Barbie was to become like this idea of perfection, not attainable, not real, empowerment of women. Now, Barbie's always lived in that premise, but this put it on steroids, and it just caught on. So seeing those first screenings of no one else, it was really quite amazing. The movie 300, you know, we go now, that was a cool movie, but I saw it. No one had seen that kind of slow motion blood going through the air. That was so cool. Like,
Mm.
I got to see all of that first. So these are some movies that just popped into my head. Even Get Out, the movie Get Out, which was, it didn't score like through the roof. It caught on.
Yep.
Because it really spoke very differently to cultures. To the Black culture, Black African American audience embraced it in one way, and the white audience, for example, embraced it in a different way. And the marketing of that was really where the genius came in, because they spoke to both. And remember, that was right before Black Lives Matter
Yep.
and Me Too movement and DEI and all the diversity initiatives. And so that was really a movie ahead of its time in a way, but it was at the perfect time. Not sure it would work as well even today.
What's next for you now coming up, Kev? What's next for you?
Well, what's next for me is continuing to grow Screen Engine. I have a lot of exciting things in the hopper. I've got a great video game product that's now becoming the currency of the gaming industry, which is called Mind Game. It would blow your mind if you saw it. It measures, if you can believe this, there's about 300,000 games around the world. Only about 7,000 of those are even measurable, right? And of that, we mine where they're going in the next couple of years, what's going to be successful, what's not, et cetera. Really cool thing. I'm very excited about the AI work we're doing. I'm really excited about the data in which we're partnering with a lot of other data partners who have what we have called first party data. That's really special data. That's Frank's response and Peter's response, and your executive producer, Mike Boris's response and my response. It's not everybody's aggregated. It's like literally what you all think. And that has great power in it, because we can really unpack what and how we're different psychographically, like behaviors, attitudes. You can get much more finite, as you know, if you're familiar with data. So that excites me. The other thing that excites me, of course, is my podcast, Don't Kill the Messenger, and this book tour on how to score in Hollywood has been really fun. I'm excited about some of the movie projects I'm doing. I have a documentary coming out in 2026 called Children in the Fire. And it's a documentary about the Ukrainian children who've been abducted by the Russians and indoctrinated into the Russian culture and stripped of their Ukrainian background and it's in their culture. And it's a very, very important bipartisan topic right now. Amy Klobuchar is working with Michael McCall across the aisle and trying to help these kids. Melania Trump is very involved as well. It's something that we have to look at as their children. And we follow stories. It's very painful. It's half animated. It's a terrific documentary. I think it's going to go really far and inform a lot of people. And I'm very proud of it. Will I make a dime? No. Does it apply to anything I talk about and how to score in Hollywood? No. And by the way, if you sleep and eat and keep the self-care going, because none of this is possible, listeners, none of this is possible if you don't practice self-care. You have to practice self-care. Otherwise, you're not going to be of use to anyone, and you're going to get bitter and not feeling like you're doing everything for everyone else.
If you're ever looking for anyone for these test audiences, give me a call. I'll go wherever you want.
I love it. I'm certainly Manhattan. So
And
I'll see if I could try to sneak you in, which would be
definitely.
I've said that publicly.
I'm in that 55 and older
I know, but you're
category.
not connected to the industry, is what I have to tell you. Not in the industry.
No.
You can't write about, talk about,
Nope.
tweet about. Every time I go up, I have to announce that to the audience. Listen, you guys, we want to continue to come back here to Stamford, Connecticut, or wherever we are, and we're only going to come back there if you don't breach your confidentiality agreement. We're very, actually, in all seriousness, we're very, very strict about that, because people will write something and it could really, hurt the film if it gets out there. Like, we have to monitor, and you have bad actors all over the place who feel like, I'm going to Jones the system, or I'm going to be the one that ruins it for everyone. And it sucks. I really, if you're going to come to a screening, come to give your opinion, come to enjoy yourself, but don't write about it. So, Frank, my book was written for you.
I know, which is my second question. So I have the book. I want to send it to you because I want to get it autographed.
Anytime, my friend, or I come back east, we'll meet for a coffee in New York.
Happy to do that.
I got an email this morning, and we can end with this if you don't mind. This is from the head of marketing at a studio, and who actually is now moving on to his next chapter. He said, I just finished the book, and honestly, I'm smiling. This is exactly the book our industry needs. The way you connect data, storytelling, and intuition feels both obvious in hindsight and totally overdue to see laid out so clearly. I especially loved how you keep bringing it back to the why behind the numbers. It's a smart reminder that research only matters if it actually helps people make braver, better decisions. The examples felt spot on and very of the moment for where the business is right now. Huge congrats. I'm genuinely thrilled this book exists, and even more thrilled that you wrote it.
I concur.
What a tribute.
That was this morning. Isn't that beautiful?
That's wonderful, Kevin.
That's great. We're proud to be sponsored by Litchfield Distillery. They like to call themselves Batchers in honor of the early farmers of Northwest Connecticut, a region known for its ample yield of wheat, corn, and barley. Growing these crops in the rocky terrain requires grit and determination. For the past decade, Litchfield Distillery has been busy distilling Litchfield County's best harvest into fine craft spirits, one batch at a time. Litchfield Distillery, the spirit of hard work.